There's this Franz Kafka quote that states, I was ashamed of myself when I realized life was a costume party and I attended with my real face. And I think that's a very real phenomenon of just the idea that people wear masks and people aren't their true selves, and that you're kind of supposed to not immediately show your real self on a first impression because you're giving something away that's very sacred or special to you, and you just shouldn't be like keeping it out broad in daylight. You know, um, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about wearing a mask because I think the solution to that, as how that can possibly limit connection or um, not allow you to experience other people fully or get to know people or kind of shelter within yourself. I don't think the solution to that is kind of removing the mask or being more genuine of a person. Because I think those people exist. There are people who you think are genuine or down to earth, but really what that is, it's more of a calm demeanor rather than just being so confident in portraying who they are. Because no matter how much you think you are portraying your real self, it who you are around another person with another person in the room versus who you are when you're alone in a room, I think is infinitely different. And I think beyond what we know, I think just the way that the brain functions and the way that you experience things, spiritually or just within your own soul or your own mind or whatever, beyond the things that we can explain, it's just immensely difficult and it's more different and it's just not the same. So being around certain people kind of just affects your character in many different levels that we don't even acknowledge. And um, the title of the video is "Wear Your Facade with Pride, Confidence, and Sincerity," something like that. And I think to do that, you need to first acknowledge that it is true that everyone dons a mask, and there's always a facade or a layer that you need to get through to know someone in a deeper way. And obviously, since everyone does wear a mask, you wear a mask too. And oftentimes, people are unconscious about how they wear a mask. People are unconscious about who they are around other people. And I think another thing I've noticed is people who don't open up as much to other close friends. They always have they're more unaware of their facade. They're more unaware of their mask. So if you keep your mask up every time you're around other people and you only take it down when you're alone, then you don't really know yourself that much. I notice. Whereas someone who I'm really close with and someone who's opened up with me and we've shared that experience. We've seen each other with the mask off, or even though you can't see someone completely with the mask off, we've kind of had a glimpse of the genuine people that we are. I noticed that people who are more open with that, or people who know people they can share with, or people who know themselves enough to be able to express that to other people that they trust, they're more conscious about who they are around the people that they don't trust. They're more conscious about how they wear a mask everywhere else. And I think this is a true thing because being self-conscious about when you are kind of opening yourself up to another person, not even just talking about your problems, but opening yourself up personally, letting someone into your own character and letting them know how you are, who you are, what the things that you like and the things that you really believe, and sharing that experience, you also know yourself better. That because you can do that alone. You can open up to yourself alone, journal, kind of talk about or just talk to yourself about your own beliefs. But it's always going to be different from when you're talking to another person. Even if they aren't saying anything, you realize that you filter yourself, you filter the things that you say, because just being in the room with someone changes someone's character in many ways, right? So when you are able to open up to certain people or when you've had that experience, I feel like subconsciously you just realize that who I am is not who this person thought I was. And now that someone knows me like that, I realize that the people who don't know me at all see a different version of me. And there are a million different versions of you that people see. Someone who I know very close and someone else who I know very close. They both know me in two separate ways. They don't know the same me. The only person who can know the same me, which is a unified one me, is I, it's myself. And I think that is all the more a reason why you should wear your mask with pride, because even if you put down the mask, no one is ever going to see you the way that you see you, and no one's going to understand you as yourself. And ultimately, maybe it's just a self assurance thing, a self confidence thing, being able to confide in yourself, that is. And which is connected with the previous video that I literally just recorded. And I think that's just the idea of reserving the real you for the real people. And knowing that that's not even the real you and that's not even the real them. Because accepting the belief that no one's gonna know you like you and you're not gonna know another person like they will, it kind of just gives you just a heads up, you know, because I think you need to acknowledge that um, you can never really share yourself with other people the way that you share yourself with yourself. And I'm getting repetitive now, but I'm really trying to stick the message of how maybe important loneliness is, because when you're alone, you get to know yourself better. That's why people who are just always around other people, and when they get alone, they get sad. It's like socializing themselves or being around other people is the solution to their problem of not knowing themselves enough, that they kind of try and self-discover through other people, which isn't the right thing. You need to self-discover through yourself and through your own experiences and through your own conscious will. And another way that I can express it, I think it's just through an analogy. I think we all have our own scars and we all have our own wounds. And no one metaphorically has perfect skin, no one metaphorically has an unwounded body. So what really this is, and the idea of wearing a mask or not, it's really having a band-aid over certain things. Either way, if you keep the band-aid on or off, it really won't affect the healing. And if you're healing something, if you're going through a difficult experience, that's akin to, let's say, maybe having a huge scar on your face. And if you just cover it with band-aids, people are still going to see it, first of all. It's also not going to heal as fast. So what you need to do is just accept that it's there and accept that everyone else has those kinds of things. And your decision to keep the band-aid on and off is completely up to you. And you keep the band-aid on for certain people, you remove it with certain people because you're comfortable with them. And that's basically the same thing that I've just explained. And it's really just maybe a simpler way of looking at it if you want to understand it better. But I just think this whole topic, to delve into it in a more philosophical way, is just the idea of subjective truths and how your subjective truths are yours alone. And you can share it with other people, you can tell people what you think is true, but you can't let them tell you otherwise. You can let them oppose you, but you can't let them convince you that your subjective truths are not yours, or that your subjective truths are not true. Because if they do that, that is no longer yours, that is their subjective truth. And fully owning your own subjective truths and your own subjective reality, your own experiences and beliefs and opinions and thoughts, those kinds of things, when you fully acknowledge that you have those, you identify what most of those are, and you accept them, then you become you. And an even deeper step, you realize where those things come from. If you have these beliefs and opinions about something, first you identify it and you internalize it, and if you want to maintain it, you maintain it. You keep it reserved within yourself. You share it with other people. And a deeper step that I think everyone should do is kind of just analyze where these come from. If you have a belief in something, just look deeper into where that came from in your childhood, from an experience, things like that. What people normally do in therapy, I assume. Just looking into where certain things in your character come from, certain dents in your character, certain flaws or highlights in your own personality. They all come from somewhere, and you aren't just born with that. You aren't People aren't born with pride or with charisma, or people aren't born to be sad or introverted or extroverted. It all comes from a certain experience. It comes from something, and that's a whole another level of self-analysis that I think people should know of. Anyways, yeah, this video was shorter than the other one, but I think I just wanted to add this explanation at the end, because I think being confident with your insincerity, because you acknowledge that everything else is insincere for the most part, kind of it protects you better. It assures your own safety around other people, with your own personality and with your secrets and with your opinions and everything. And you kind of acknowledge the fact that there's no real way to know someone, and there's no real way for someone to know you in the way that the self knows the self. And I think, first of all, if you don't know yourself for you, then you're gonna have these problems of trying to get with other people, trying to find out what someone is, trying to have them figure out what problems you're having, asking people for their advice, when in the beginning, in the first place, you don't know yourself to begin with, and you're missing that foundation. So maybe just what this video is I'm trying to tell people that they need to first understand who they are, and from there you can realize other things through other people. But no matter how difficult it is, no matter how much pressure you feel when you're alone, I think just becoming comfortable with being alone and not being afraid of your own thoughts, not being afraid to be in a room with your own thoughts scattering, you know, being able to look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and to acknowledge what your beliefs are and what you're afraid of, and to acknowledge that you're not afraid of yourself. I think that's just the essential first step in anything in life. And yeah, well, that's about it for this video. Yeah, that's fun. I'll see you in the next video.